Hey, Bills Mafia. We know there's only one topic every day. All Bills, all the time. And now Matt Bovee and Sal Capaccio are going really deep, talking Bills all year long, because it's always game day in Buffalo.
Matt, I know you're not like this huge college basketball fan, but it is the time of year. Did you enter any bracket contests? And if you did, how many?
One.
Oh,
I am in one, and I'll tell you, it got a little bit dicey. We're recording this on Sunday night, and my champion is Florida. So I picked Florida because there's some cool Western New York connections on Florida. So I've got a reason to root for them. Even though today, funny enough, I ever tell you my UConn panic attack story that I was I was going to UConn after my sophomore season.
Yes, you did tell you've shared
and
that. Yes.
we went and visited, and I think I had a full-on panic attack. So I was
enrolled.
Told
your parents I have to go home. I can't.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I was enrolled at UConn for a couple hours. So it's tough going against the alma mater like I had to do on Sunday. But yeah, so I have one bracket, and Florida is my champion. How about you?
I did a few this year, but generally just because I try to get into some, and some costs money, so you try to limit it because it's tough. But I also run one every year, which I want to get to in a second. So the UConn Florida thing's interesting. As a Syracuse fan, I've always hated UConn, right? Big East, they're just a big rival. But I really like Danny Hurley. So, I just think he just brings a lot of energy. And then I've really never liked Florida in any sport because living down there, it kind of got one of those things where their fans are just a little too obnoxious to deal with, right? But as you said, Carlin Hartman, I saw his face on TV today after the game. It was great. So I'm very conflicted in that. And Florida's a really good team. I entered in a survivor pool where you have to pick a winner every day. I paid $50 and didn't realize it was daily. I thought it was by round. So literally by day 2, I was out because I didn't make a pick.
Oh, no kidding.
So already out of that one. I do run a pool, and actually I got in another one, by the way, to support my buddy. My buddy is the head coach at Hornell High School football. So shout out to Izzy and Hornell. Went to Syracuse with him. He said, hey, run in this pool to support the booster club. So I did that, but I am running one, and it's at cbssports.com. And I was on the radio the other day, WGR. And I said, hey, we're running it back. We had like 300-400 people last year, which is amazing. Over 1,000 people actually signed up, Matt. But out of that, we have over 600 completed entries, almost 700 actually completed entries.
That's ridiculous.
And because of that, usually last year I gave out a $50 gift card to the NCAA online shop. And I said, hey, if we can get over 600, which we did, we got to 1,000. I said, I'll give out a $100 gift card to the NCAA online shop, 50 for second place, 25 for third. I am in it. You get 3 entries. And I had Max and Yana each fill out an entry. Out of 600 and let's just say 700 people, I'm in 379th place. Max is in 159th and Yana's in 613th because St. John's is her winner and they are out.
Yeah, well, I guess you're not going to be getting the gift card to yourself.
No.
For yourself. So somebody will get a That's so cool. That's incredible. 700 people. That is so many people to be doing.
It's incredible.
So,
yeah, and I'm sure there's not 700 people, but a lot of them filled out 3 brackets, but 1,000 total entries. And then, there were about 300 that didn't completely fill them out. So we were at 700. My champion is Auburn. And they also had a bit of a scare, but they wound up surviving and advancing as well. So it should be fun. Glad to watch the tournament and, what's going on. It's really cool. And on that note, we talked about all these connections. How about Roddy Gale? Roddy Gale's from up near you, Newport High School.
Yeah, I was
going to say. This kid, now I didn't realize. So he went to Newport for like 2.5 years.
Yes.
Then he transferred to a high school in Utah. And then he went to the Ohio State for 3 years. And of all places to transfer to in the portal, he transfers to Michigan.
Yeah.
And he's helping Michigan right now, do what they're doing.
Yeah. So Roddy Gale was part of a group of kids from Niagara Falls who were fantastic at basketball. Yeah. There's 3 of them: Roddy Gale, Jalen Bradbury, and Willie Lightfoot. They were all right around the same age. They grew up playing with each other. They all kind of went their own separate ways. So for a little while, Jalen Bradbury went to Wheatfield, Roddy Gale went to Newport, Willie Lightfoot stayed at Niagara Falls, and then eventually they all kind of went to different schools and they went the prep route. And they're all really, really good players. But it's funny because I had a party for a friend on Saturday night and we're watching the final stretch with Michigan. And all it is everybody talking about Roddy Gale. So for me as a Niagara Wheatfield grad, knowing the Niagara Frontier League, our NFL up here.
Yep.
Like, he was playing in these gyms a couple of years ago, and now he is lighting it up at March Madness. So a really good player. Cool to see him be the one to step up in the big moment. And once again, the age-old thing. There's always a Western New York connection. Yep. So as a sports director at a television station in Western New York, I'm really happy that now he and the Florida Gators live to fight at least another week, because once again, those connections continue all the way into the Sweet 16 now.
I love it. It's a great story. Newport High School, by the way, for those of you who aren't familiar, that's where Daryl Moose Johnston also went to high school, who became a fullback for the Dallas Cowboys, won some Super Bowls. He's been on Fox, obviously. I think he's now in the involved with the USFL. So it's cool. As we're recording this, some basketball games are going on. So, if one of us gives something happened, maybe we're watching, seeing some scores go by on a Sunday night. Not a lot's been happening with the Buffalo Bills, but we figured we'd give you a podcast. And I got a really cool exercise to throw Matt's way a little bit later when it comes to the draft. But we did have some news on Sunday. And Matt, I am intentionally drinking out of this Oak Hill cup because you and I will be back in Rochester again for another year. No surprise, but the Bills are going back for training camp.
No surprise. So friends of the podcast, the crew over at Buffalo Plus, they are based in Rochester, and they reported on Sunday that Buffalo Bills training camp is once again returning to Rochester at St. John Fisher University for the 24th consecutive, well, not 24th consecutive season, but the 24th season. There was a couple of years where it was off because of COVID, and they had training camp back in Buffalo. There's always rumblings that they're not going to go back, or that the contract only has 1 year left, but then they keep on extending it. And I'm not surprised, because it genuinely feels like all of the important people within the Bills organization love going to Rochester for training camp. So the people who would be high up on that list are Shawn McDermott, Brandon Beane, Pete Gwelly, and Josh Allen. I would say those are, and of course, Terry Pagula. But those are the four people that are kind of in the trenches every day, and every single one of them loves going to Rochester. So the crew over at Buffalo Plus said it's going back. They think it's going to be similar to what we saw last year. Last year, I believe there were around 10 practices that were open to the public. Kind of goes for 2.5 weeks. Then they get back to Buffalo once it's time to do the open practice at the stadium, and then eventually the preseason starts. So it's not as long as it used to be, but a really cool way for the fans in Rochester. There's, I'm sure, a lot of people who are listening or watching this who are fans in Rochester. A cool way for them to get close to the team as we lead up to, the best part of the year with the preseason and then eventually the regular season.
Yeah. And I mean, operationally, it just makes sense, right? Because there's this new stadium coming in Buffalo. And if anybody thought, well, they're going to eventually end it and come to Buffalo, which was a thought over the last few years, there's really no reason to do that right now. Now, when the new stadium is built, I do wonder what happens. And I'm not going to sit here and predict that they're going to end Rochester, because I think that we've all kind of seen that what you said, they really like being there. They keep telling us they like being there, but operationally, this just makes sense, at least for this year to go, and probably next year too. And then maybe once you're into the new stadium and you see what the landscape is, what the footprint is, then maybe you reevaluate. But I think it just works. It really works. There was a time where pretty much almost every team in the league was going away. Now there's only a handful of teams still going away. The Bills are one of them, Matt.
Yeah, it's cool. They love the camaraderie of it. The facilities that they have at St. John Fisher are very good. It's not quite what they would have in Buffalo, but I don't think it's a massive drop-off, which is why they're comfortable. In my opinion, if the Bills thought there was any major competitive disadvantage to going away, they wouldn't go away.
No.
That's just, everything is about winning. But I think they think it's kind of close, like it doesn't have a huge impact on just the competitive side, and they love it from a camaraderie side. I think they like getting kind of the guys with each other, hanging out nonstop for 2 weeks, hanging out in the dorm rooms, doing their walkthroughs at sundown with their bare, well, I don't know if they'll be bare feet anymore without Matt Collins, but hanging out on the field and just kind of chilling and being friends with each other. So, I mean, that's what sports are all about at the end of the day. Even though this is a business and this is the highest level, it is just about people becoming friends and hanging out with each other and playing a sport that they love.
And it's just far enough to go away and just close enough to come home, right? I think of teams like the Dallas Cowboys who go to Oxnard, California for training camp.
It's crazy.
Like, man, what is that like for you and your family and the people who work and the media, people like us? And for us, we'll talk a lot more about this, of course, as it gets closer, but we love going away, being with our colleagues, and we all, for the most part, we all have a good time together. We help each other out on the beat, the TV, the radio, the print people, whatever it is, podcasters. We like to play golf. There's a lot of great golf courses. So yeah, I'm definitely, looking forward to another year. We also don't know if the Bills will have a joint practice this year. And if they do, it could be in Rochester. They've done that. The Cleveland Browns were here several years ago. Or they could go away like they did to the Pittsburgh Steelers last year.
I have a complete guess theory. Okay. I was going to say the team that makes the most sense is, of course, the Carolina Panthers, but they played the Panthers this year, so it's not going to be the Panthers. I bet that they do something with the Giants. If they're going to do something, I bet they do something with the Giants because of obviously the relationship with Joe Schoen and Brandon Beane. That would be the biggest one. Brian Dable from Western New York, from Buffalo. Doesn't it make sense that, because now this is a conversation that we'll have with Mike North. The league puts together the regular season schedule, but teams can, kind of maneuver their way around the preseason as long as logistically it's possible. I could see a world where the Bills and Giants have a preseason game and they butt it up to a couple days of a joint practice, kind of like we saw with the Bills and Steelers last year.
If you're watching on the video side, I apologize. I looked over and there was a bug crawling on my desk in the studio Capaccio here, and it just freaked me out, and I quickly whacked it. And if you saw that, that's what happened just now. So I think I got it. I gotta just look over it.
Well done.
Sorry. If you're listening, you might even know what the hell just happened and what I'm talking about. But if you're watching, that's what just happened and why I did that. Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It should be really fun. The schedule for training camp won't be out until June, most likely. The Bills' actual game schedule will come out before then, and we'll talk to Mike North about that, like you said, and find out some clues maybe and figure out. And we're going to have some schedule stuff to talk about in the podcast for sure going forward. But look, still about a month or so, a little over a month before the draft. A lot of ramping up to get to the draft. We have a lot of time to kind of talk about and digest what the Bills might do between now and then.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to go back and look at some past drafts because there's been a lot of, I'd say, polarization about Brandon Beane's drafts since he's become, the general manager of the Buffalo Bills. He's been in charge of how many drafts now? 18, 19, 20, 1, 2, 3, 4, 7 drafts.
Mm-hmm.
Brandon Beane's been in charge of 7 drafts. I have a exercise I'd like to do with you when it comes to Brandon Beane's drafts. Okay. Are you ready? You want to do this?
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, I have a couple of interesting anecdotes about the draft before I get to the exercise. I don't know if this is like, you would say, yeah, I get it, Sal, because, there's just so many colleges out there. Brandon Beane, you know how many picks he's had total in 7 years?
Well, my guess would be, let's say, an average of 7 a year or so. I'll say 50.
55. Okay. And actually, they did pick 10 last year. You know how everybody says they're not going to pick 10 this year? They did pick 10 players last year, actually. 55 total picks. The Bills, under Brandon Beane, have never drafted a player out of Alabama, Michigan, or Ohio State.
That's crazy.
None of the 3.
That's wild. I mean, considering where those programs have been the last couple of years, wow. They've never drafted a player from Alabama.
No. Now, Levi Wallace came in as an undrafted free agent, right? You've had guys like that. But under Brandon Beane, since 2018, the Bills have not drafted a player out of Alabama, a player out of Michigan, or a player out of Ohio State. And what's funny, the only reason I thought about that was someone tweeted me the other day and said, hey, does Brandon Beane just not like Michigan? Why doesn't he draft any players from there? And I said, well, I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of schools he hasn't drafted anyone from. And I went back and thought about it and said, man, no Alabama, no Ohio State. I took a look at it. It's really interesting that they haven't done that. I think last year might have been the first year from Florida State for when they drafted Keon Coleman. I mean, it just happens, I guess, when you have that. The other thing is, and I'm going to show you this in a second. So there's 7 rounds in the draft, okay? Mm-hmm. Do you know how many 4th rounders Brandon Beane has drafted in 7 years?
20.
20 out of 55 have been 4th round picks, you think?
15. I think it's a lot. I think that's why you're asking me. I think it's lot.
Actually the other way.
Oh, really?
3.
Okay, let me guess.
3. Can you name the 3 4th rounders Brandon Beane has drafted?
Ray Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Gabe Davis.
Mm-hmm.
Is there another Davis?
Nope.
Taron Johnson.
That's it. That is it.
That's crazy.
I thought you
were going to tell me it was some obscure high number, which is why I guessed high, because those 3 I already knew. So I'm like, okay, you know those 3 off the top of your head. There's got to be a bunch of whiffs mixed in there that you just don't realize.
Okay, so Brandon Beane has only drafted 3 4th rounders, which is amazing. He's had a lot of 5th rounders, a lot more 6th rounders actually than anything else. I'm going to show you this on the screen. Let's pull it up. Here we go. Here are Brandon Beane's drafts by round since 2018. And I've kind of done it from 2018. And if you look at the top, like Josh Allen was his first rounder. It's not completely in order, but it mostly is by year, even if it's not the actual order in that year because you have multiple picks. Okay. All right. We're going to play a game here. Okay.
Okay.
Let's go round by round and figure out and kind of rank them, so to speak.
Yeah.
All right. As far as now, the question I have for you though is, Matt, what do you base your value on when you rank? Like what means something to you? Just what career they've had, I guess, overall?
Yeah, for sure. And I would imagine okay, obviously the best pick that he has made is Josh Allen.
Yes.
That will be what carries his entire career as a front office person. But I would say probably it's weird. He gets credit for drafting Wyatt Teller. Now he traded Wyatt Teller away, but as far as the draft process is concerned and finding somebody who's good,
Agreed.
I think he gets the credit for Wyatt Teller. It's a different conversation about him eventually trading him away. So it depends on the situation. But I think a lot of it is, has this player been good enough to get a second contract? Because if they have, and they're not a first round pick most of the time, I would say that's a win.
Yeah, I agree with you. Everything you said about Wyatt Teller, for example, it's a great example. That's a good draft pick because he's had a really tremendous career so far. The other thing is sometimes it just doesn't work out. Maybe you make a really good pick. I'll give you an example. Maybe Tommy Doyle would have been a really good offensive lineman, but he had injuries. So, he's not going to be ranked highly. So I think the best way to do it is just say, hey, what kind of career have these guys had? And we'll rank them like that, basically. And then you can just kind of go through each round and say, wow, for a 6th round pick or for a 7th round pick, that guy's been pretty good. Now, while you look at this, Matt, I'm going to actually be shifting them up and down on my board on the side that you can't see so that I can show it later. Okay. Because I have no ability to do that. Now, if you're on the audio side and you have no visual, we'll go through these. Here's your first round under Brandon Beane: Josh Allen, Tremaine Edmonds, Ed Oliver, Greg Rousseau, Kyer Elam, and Dalton Kincaid. I think we'd both agree Allen and Edmonds are 1 and 2.
Yes, I agree.
3 is Rousseau. Wait a minute. Would you put Rousseau over Edmonds?
No.
Okay.
No, I don't think so. Well, that's tricky. No, I don't think I would. I think even though Greg Rousseau is a good player, I think Tremaine Edmonds was a polarizing guy. So some people listening and watching this are going to be like, you're out of your mind. And other people will be like, well, no, he was really good. I will go for I'm just ranking these top to bottom.
Mm-hmm.
I would go Allen 1, Edmonds 2, Rousseau 3, Oliver 4, Kincaid 5, Elam 6.
I like your rankings because Kincaid is still kind of incomplete. It's going to be tough for those guys drafted the last 2 years.
Sure.
And obviously, Elam is last. I would put Rousseau ahead of Edmonds at this point, I think now, considering where he is and the fact that he did get that big second contract. But I'm only going to rank what you say, but I'm just wanting it to be known. I would think I would put Rousseau ahead of Edmonds at this point after 4 years. Okay, 2nd round picks. Here we go. Cody Ford, AJ Epinesa, Boogie Basham, James Cook, Osiris Torrance, Cole Bishop, and Keon Coleman.
Okay, so easily for me, the top 2 are James Cook and Osiris Torrance.
Yep.
I think I'm going to go. I think I'm going to go Osiris Torrance 1.
Wow.
James Cook 2. And then everybody else. AJ Epinesa 3, Keon 4, Cole Bishop 5, Boogie Basham. Actually, no. I'll do Cole Bishop 5, Cody Ford 6, Boogie Basham 7.
I like your ending because Basham has to be last to me.
Yeah.
I think Cody Ford at least was serviceable for a little while. More than Basham. They traded him. I think that's the case. And honestly, Ford's gone on to do a little bit more as well. Yeah, Bishop can't be ranked ahead of Coleman right now, and neither of them can certainly be ranked ahead of AJ Epinesa at this point.
No,
I would put James Cook first over Osiris Torrance, but I understand why you would put Osiris Torrance, only because of what James Cook did really last year and the year before, I guess, and how good he's been. But I do think it's close.
Well, my reasoning is that, and this might not be a fair reason, I think it's harder to find the caliber of guard they got in Osiris Torrance in the 2nd round than it is to find the caliber of running back. Good running backs are drafted in the 2nd and 3rd rounds almost exclusively. There's outliers, right? You've got the guys that go at the top of the draft every single year, but it's not a surprise that you could get a good running back in the 2nd round. To get a rock solid guard who was probably going to play on this team for a long time in Osiris Torrance and who's almost certainly going to get a second deal, That to me is a huge, huge, huge win. I mean, we weren't talking about the offensive line. 2 years ago, the offensive line was a big question. Now we've had the best 2 years of the Bills' offensive line completely in the Josh Allen and Brandon Beane era. It's not a coincidence that he's kind of shored up the middle of that line.
Let's go to round number 3. You're okay if at the end of this I tweet out your rankings, right? I mean, obviously,
of course,
we're going to put them. I want everybody to kind of comment on it, but
of course.
All right, here we go. So I'm moving them around here, folks, just so everybody knows. In the 3rd round, let's go.
Oh, this is a tough one.
Harrison Phillips, Devin Singletary, Dawson Knox, Zach Moss, Spencer Brown, Terrell Bernard, Dorian Williams, and Dwayne Carter.
Okay. Spencer Brown 1. Terrell Bernard 2. Dawson Knox 3. Harrison Phillips. Oh, this is tough. I didn't see Devin Singletary there. All right. Spencer Brown 1.
Harrison has had a nice career with the Vikings.
He has. Spencer Brown 1. Terrell Bernard 2. This is so tricky.
This is tough, isn't it? This is a good round for the Bills, actually.
This is a good round.
This is a good round for Brandon Beane. 3rd round.
I'm going to say...
There's no busts on this list because even Zach Moss had a resurrection a little bit with the Bengals.
I'll say Harrison Phillips 3, Dawson Knox 4, Devin Singletary 5, Dorian Williams 6, Zach Moss 7, Dwayne Carter 8.
Dorian Williams. Okay. So Matt goes, and I think it's fair. You got to put Dwayne Carter at this point last because even though I think he might still be a good player, he did some nice things last year. This is a good class. The 3rd round class, a good class. Spencer Brown, Terrell Bernard, Harrison Phillips, Dawson Knox, Devin Singletary, Dorian Williams, Zach Moss, and Dwayne Carter for Matt. Now, I think you can make an argument Dorian Williams over Devin Singletary. I wouldn't do it. I agree with you. I might put Dawson Knox ahead of Harrison Phillips. It is really close right there.
Yeah, it's really close. Harrison Phillips got a nice contract from the Vikings, continues to be a good player for them. Dawson Knox has meant a lot to this team, but I don't know how good of a player he would be in a second location like Harrison Phillips translated. So that was kind of the reasoning I went with that decision.
And I think there could be an argument for Terrell Bernard over Spencer Brown, but you like having both of those at the top. They're very good picks for 3rd round picks. They both earned second contracts recently.
Spencer Brown has become an elite right tackle in the NFL. So I like Terrell Bernard.
I like you,
but
what you have here.
But Spencer Brown is just different.
Okay. 4th round. I told you only 3 picks. This should be pretty easy. You got Taron
easy.
Johnson, Gabe Davis, and Ray Davis.
The list it's on the order. It's already up. Taron Johnson 1, Gabe Davis 2, Ray Davis 3.
Yeah. Taron Johnson. I thought about this, and when I was thinking, Matt, about how to present this exercise to you, one of the ways I was going to do it was let's rank by value, considering where a guy was drafted overall, and put the whole board together as one. And I think Taron Johnson would be right up there with Josh Allen or anybody as like value pick on how good they've been for where they were drafted.
Yeah, I think the top 5 in the value, just off the top of my head, would be in no particular order: Josh Allen, Christian Benford, Taron Johnson, Spencer Brown, and Wyatt Teller. I think right away those would be the 5 guys that I would get to. It's just these are the most valuable picks the Bills have made during their time or during the Brandon Beane, Sean McDermott era.
All right. Speaking of Wyatt Teller, he was a 5th round pick. The Bills traded him after 1 year to Cleveland. He becomes an all-pro. He's been really, really terrific in the NFL. And Brandon Beane has said in the past, it's one he would like back, but things happen. And obviously they made the decision at the time. So let's look at the 5th round class. Here we go, folks. Saran Neal. By the way, Saran Neal, who's still in the league, just signed a deal with, where did he go? He just signed with somebody and I can't remember now.
I remember just seeing it.
Yeah, me too. All right. Saran Neal, Wyatt Teller, Voshon Joseph, Jake Fromm, Tommy Doyle, Khalil Shakir, Justin Shorter, Javon Solomon, Cedric Van Pran Granger, and Eddie Ulofoshio. There's a lot of mixture of, okay and not bad in here. Interesting.
Yeah. Wyatt Teller 1, Khalil Shakir 2, Saran Neal 3. And then after that, it's a dealer's choice of whatever the heck you want. I'll go Tommy Doyle 4, even though the injuries have just been so bad. It's tough. I don't know. None of the people listed here have shown me enough that I could I can make the argument that any of them are 4 or any of them are last.
I think I could put Javon Solomon 4 after showing me some flashes last year.
Yeah, I thought about that, but it's only 1 year, so it's hard for me to put him. Okay, that's not bad. I'll do Javon Solomon 4. I'll do.
Why don't you can do process of elimination and go from the bottom up now.
Okay, so from the bottom up, I'll go.
It's got to be Voshon Joseph last, right?
Voshon Joseph last.
And then Jake Fromm.
I was going to say Justin Shorter second last.
Okay.
Jake Fromm third last.
Mm-hmm.
We'll go Ulofoshio next, then Van Pran Granger. So yeah, then Tommy Doyle, Solomon.
Okay, so Teller, Shakir, Neal, Javon Solomon, Tommy Doyle is next on the list.
Yep.
Followed by Cedric Van Pran Granger.
Yep.
Eddie Ulofoshio, Jake Fromm, Justin Shorter, Voshon Joseph, correct?
Yep. That's correct.
All right. That is Matt's 5th round ranking. Let's go to 6th round. This is where the Bills have had the most picks. We only have 3 picks in the 4th round. They have 3. How many? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 in the 6th round. Some interesting names on this list. Here they are, everybody. Ray McLeod, who was pretty good for the Falcons last year. Yeah. Jaquan Johnson, 4-year safety starter for the Bills at times. Played a lot on special teams. Tyler Bass, Isaiah Hodgins, Marquez Stevenson, Damar Hamlin, Rashad Wildgoose, Matt Ariza, Christian Benford, Luke Tenuta, Tylon Grable, and Daquan Hardy.
Okay. Christian Benford is definitely one.
Easy. Yes.
I will say this is tricky.
Tyler Bass number 2?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking about. I'm between.
I mean, despite his struggles last year,
I'm between him and Hamlin.
I like that. I wish too. I would be too.
I'll go Hamlin 2.
Okay, no problem with that.
Tyler Bass 3.
Mm-hmm.
Ray McLeod 4.
Okay, you and you're good on here. I mean, we're thinking the same way.
Jaquan Johnson 5.
Yep.
Isaiah Hodgins 6.
I think you. Yeah. What has Ariza done with the Chiefs?
I was going to say Ariza.
Has he been really good?
He's been fine. He's been a punter for a year. So Ariza was going to be next.
Okay.
Then after that, I was going to go with Marquez. No, I'll go Tylon Grable.
Okay. Yeah. Ooh. Yeah.
Then I'll go.
Now let's remember, Tylon Grable did win the Bills' swing tackle job this year. He didn't play a lot, but he was active more than Ryan Vandermark was.
Sure, but who am I putting him ahead of that I just said?
Right.
Maybe Ariza. Maybe I would put him ahead of.
Maybe,
so
but I think you're good.
So I'll keep it Ariza. Then I'll go Grable. Then after that, I'll go. Oh, this is just now you run into.
Well, Wild Goose was poached, and he did play a little bit.
So I was going to go Wild Goose next, then Daquan Hardy, then Marquez Stevenson, then Luke Tenuta.
Oh, okay. I thought you had Stevenson a little higher first. Okay, good. Okay. So after Grable, you have Wild Goose.
Yep.
Hardy. Yep. Stevenson.
Yep.
Tenuta.
Yep.
Got you. Okay. All right, that is Matt's 6th round. All right, 7th rounders. Interesting names here. Guys still in the league. Guys that are still playing for the Bills, actually.
Yeah.
7th round picks for the Bills under Brandon Beane. Austin Prohl, Daryl Bam Johnson, Tommy Sweeney, Dane Jackson, Jack Anderson, Balin Spector, Nick Broker, Alex Austin, and Travis Clayton. You could make the argument that the 7th round, other than Christian Benford, outside of him, has been almost as impactful in the NFL as the 6th round.
Yeah, so the number 1 here for me will be Dane Jackson.
Mm-hmm.
The number
maybe
2.
not as impactful, I guess, because Hamlin and Bass would be up there.
Yeah.
But the 7th round hasn't been a complete wash, I'll say that.
No. The next pick for me, I'm between 2 guys.
Okay. See, this is the same 2 I am.
I'm between Daryl Johnson and Alex Austin.
That's same thing for me, with a nod a little bit to Tommy Sweeney, but I think he was still playing as of last year.
Yeah, I'll go I'll go Daryl Johnson 2, Alex Austin 3, Tommy Sweeney 4, Balin Spector 5.
Hold on, Tommy Sweeney 4. Yep,
Balin
Spector 5. Yep.
Then I'll go.
Wow. Okay, can I ask a question? Do you think Balin Spector is that far down? And I know the injuries, I get it, but he has played quite a bit for the Bills over the last 3 years, even with the injuries.
Well, Daryl Johnson got him something in the trade. Yep. Alex Austin is still playing.
He is.
More than Balin Spector.
He picked off Josh Allen, by the way, in a game.
That's what I mean. And then who did I put? Who was the other person I put?
You got Sweeney, then Spector.
I'll flip those. I'll do. No, I won't. I'm going to keep that. I'm going to keep Sweeney, then Spector. Then I'll do Travis Clayton, Nick Broker, Austin Prohl.
Jack Anderson last.
Oh, I forgot about Jack Anderson.
He was poached.
Yeah, I'll then do Jack Anderson ahead of Broker.
Okay, after Spector, then give me what you have. Yeah, after Spector, you have Travis Clayton.
Spector. Do Jack Anderson next.
Okay.
Then Travis Clayton, then Nick Broker, then Austin Prohl.
Okay, I got you. All right, here it is. All right, so what'd you think about that exercise? You like it?
That was hard. It was hard. Yeah.
When you take in totality, what I'm going to do, I'm going to talk to our producer right now, Mike. What I'm going to do, Mike, is I'm going to take a screenshot of this and upload it, and this will be the final tally for Matt. In the meantime, when you take a look, Matt, at everything for Brandon Beane, he gets, it's polarizing for Brandon Beane in a lot of ways, from a lot of people. But I think that you could take a look at this list and say, every team's going to have misses. There's some guys that are late round picks that are still here.
Yeah. My issue
folks, down there right now.
My issue for the Bills has been mostly day 2.
Yep.
Mostly day 2. Now, of course, Elam was a miss and Kincaid is to be
day determined. 2. So everybody knows is rounds 2 and 3.
Yes. Rounds 2 and 3. I feel like they have been not consistently impactful enough, right? I mean, you look at, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 day 2 picks over the course of his tenure. And I would say they absolutely hit on 4 of them. And then the rest of them are all either more to be desired or, okay, fine. Like, I feel that way about AJ Epinesa. Good player, helps your team. But you could find another person who could do something similar with not as valuable of an asset. Same thing I would probably say for a player like Dawson Knox. Like, yeah, Dawson Knox is a good player, but there's probably a lot of guys who could have success as a tight end on the Bills roster. So it's not necessarily a knock on them. It's just more of these are valuable assets. These are valuable pieces that you should be able to find impactful players. And I just don't think the Bills have done it consistently enough.
I am fascinated by all of your responses. Here's what we're going to do. If you go to Sal Sports on Twitter and at Sal Sports or at Matt_Bove, I'm going to tweet out this screenshot, which is Matt's rankings of every single Bills draft pick by round and how good of a pick it was, basically, from top to bottom, ranking them. And for all the reasons he gave, and you could have your own reasons for saying you agree or disagree. I'm fascinated by what everybody's going to say. Make sure you do it. Check it out in the comments at Sal Sports. You can watch, by the way, if you're listening to this, don't forget to go to the Sal Sports YouTube page. You can see the video. You can see it up on your screen, but I'm going to tweet it out at Sal Sports as well. All right, very cool. I like that. That was a good exercise.
Good idea. I'm glad you set that up. Thank you. That was fun.
All right, you got it. All right, we threw it out if anybody had any questions, and you had a question for me.
Yeah.
And it was such a good question. I asked Yana, I'm like, what would I say for this? The question you asked me was, if I could host a podcast with anybody else other than you in the world, who would it be? I'm assuming you mean alive, not dead or alive, right?
Yes.
Because we thought about people and like, well, that person's not alive today. I can't do that. And I don't know the answer. I really don't have an answer, but I would say this. I did narrow it down a little bit to what I'd be looking for, okay?
Sure.
Are we talking like a regular podcast, not just one time for an hour, right?
Yeah, regularly co-host a podcast.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be about the Bills. It could be about anything you're passionate about.
In fact, it would be something I wouldn't want it to be about the Bills. I'd want it to be about something else, because what I would want if I did this would be someone who is a great, great storyteller and has a ton of stories. I would love to set them up, to tee them up, and they would just tell stories that make people want to come back all the time. So I need someone who's done a lot, but probably a little bit older as well, right? That like they've been in a lot of different realms and arenas, whether it's sports, entertainment, politics, all of that. I don't want it to be political, but you might have to have somebody who can tell stories about that. I was definitely thinking of the music industry for this a little bit.
Sure.
Like, would I want like a really, really big rock star? Like, I'm a big U2 fan, but Bono wouldn't be like,
No.
I don't think he'd be good enough for this, but like someone who could come in and tell me great Paul McCartney, right? The Beatles. Oh my
Sure.
God.
Yeah.
Like that would be amazing. Then I thought about what about athletes? The Rock. Athletes turned actors who've had all these things. And then I thought, here, I'll tell you someone that got high on my list. Yana said, well, think about like, what about Saturday Night Live? And I'm like, oh my God, Eddie Murphy would make me laugh every single time. Do you know how many great stories Eddie Murphy would have if we hosted a podcast with him?
Oh, it would be fantastic. It would
And
be unbelievable.
he's like one of my favorite comedic actors ever. So that's the way I think about it, but I don't know who I would choose specifically.
It's a really interesting question because there's so many different ways you could take it. And I think it would also kind of show people what you're interested in besides covering sports and, being a dad and raising your family in Western New York. Like, too similar. We have a lot of those same things in common, but it would also show people like, hey, this is, the side of Sal Capaccio maybe you don't see. So I thought it was a fun question of just like, hey, I wonder who he would say. I have no answer either. Like, I wish I could say, oh, this is who I would say. I don't have a perfect. I was thinking about the same thing. I'm like, man, I thought about comedians a lot and comedians that I think are good that would be really fun to go with. I thought about movie stars and actors and actresses who I would be fascinated to have conversations with. Thought about political figures. That feels way too polarizing. It probably
exactly. I agree.
So
like someone commented Wolf Blitzer. I'm like, absolutely, right? But you, of course, if you did that, you're alienating a lot of people who don't watch that network. But he's from Buffalo and he's a Bills fan. He's been around politics. There's no doubt about it. I don't know if you know, but the NBC News White House correspondent Ryan Nobles is a big Bills fan, and I've talked with Ryan. I actually had him on a podcast a few years ago. Like, people like that would be fascinating just because I like the inner workings of stuff like that. It doesn't have to be political, but how you cover politics is interesting to me. I thought about actors like Leonardo DiCaprio, right? I think he would be fascinating. Justin Timberlake, an actor and a singer, and what that in that world.
Yeah, it's funny because I think there's some people who are just universally loved by a lot of people. One of those people is Charles Barkley, who's on my television.
Yes, I thought about him. Yes.
Like everybody loves Charles Barkley. Yes. It doesn't matter where you're from, what politics you like. Most people like Charles Barkley. Another one that would be fascinating to me would be like Ernie Johnson, who's also like, he's the best. He's the best. Everybody loves Ernie. So there's so many great answers that you could come up with.
I also thought about people who host their own podcasts or radio shows. Howard Stern, like, he would be so good at hosting because he's a great host and I could kind of be second fiddle, right? Something like that. So there's a lot of great answers. Thanks a lot for that. Made me think a lot, but I would not choose like a Bills podcast, a Bills podcaster. I would love to. One of the reasons I started another podcast I host called Sal's House is because I wanted to delve into other people's stories and lives from all different genres. And that's what I really enjoy doing. So thanks for letting me think about that. And I'm going to keep thinking about it. All right. We have a couple of more here that came our way. This is an interesting one. Do you think, and this changed because of maybe it might change because of the Milano restructure last week we talked about. Mafia Members Podcast writes in, do you think the Bills draft Shawn Dolac?
No, because I think somebody will draft him before they get a chance, is what I would say. That's my guess. I just don't know how much they would prioritize drafting a linebacker, given the other people and the other investments they've made into that position. And I think somebody will take Dolac before the Bills would, I don't want to say take a chance on a player, but feel comfortable using an asset on another linebacker. Because keep in mind, when we just did that exercise we were talking about, they've got Milano and Bernard. They used a third-round pick on Dorian Williams. Yep. They just used a pick on Edwan Ulafosio the other day, or last year. They still like Joe Andreessen a lot. Like, all of a sudden, that's 5 linebackers. How many linebackers?
And you still have Bale Inspector on the team.
Yeah, how many linebackers you keeping on the team? Right. So I'm not going to rule it out just because if anybody knows what he can do, it would be the team in his backyard, and maybe he's a diamond in the rough. But I don't see them using anything higher than a 5th or 6th round pick on a linebacker. And they don't even have a 7th round pick right now.
Yeah, and look, he's going day 3, late day 3. Some people think he might not even get drafted. I think he should, but I think For me, Matt, it's a numbers game. There's 31 other teams, right? It's
Mhm.
really most likely that the Bills wouldn't even have a chance to do that. All right, Jacob, really good question for both of us here. He says he's a parent of 4 kids between 4 months and 5 years. Oh, wow. God bless you, Jacob. 4 kids, 5 years and younger.
Yeah.
How do athletes have time to work out, study, and prepare? Not enough time of the day. How do you guys handle all the travel with a young family? All right, so let's take it from our perspective. Obviously, athletes, I don't know. I can't answer for them. But as people in the media who have a young family, we both only have one child. Yours is a lot younger than mine, but I was doing this when Max was your daughter's age.
Yeah.
And I would say the number one thing for me, you have to have a supporting wife.
Yeah.
You have to have a supporting spouse, somebody who understands the life that you have and what your job entails. And you have to be able to be supportive for them when they, you do your share when you have to do it, but you have to have someone understanding and supporting. That's number one.
Yeah, absolutely. That is the biggest factor. And then all the help. We're both so fortunate. Both of us, but for me specifically, I'm from here. I'm from Western New York. My wife's from Western New York. Our families are here. So we really lean on our parents. My mom and her mom and dad do all of the heavy lifting with our daughter during the week just because we both work most of the time, Monday through Friday. My schedule is actually easier to maneuver during the season because I'm off during the week a couple days because usually on Saturday, Sunday, Monday, I'm working, almost exclusively. So that gives me a couple days off in the week. So it's a couple more days that I'm home. But yeah, it's tricky. It's a juggling act. But when you have a career and a job that you love, you make sacrifices and you have to make it work. And I feel like that's kind of how we both have not gotten to this point, but made it work so far.
And I think part of it for me is too, when I have the downtime, so to speak, I make sure I spend a lot of that with my son, Max. Right. And we have a great relationship, but I make sure that I'm, when I'm working, I'm away and it stinks. I'm gone, 9-10 weekends a year. And then, but when I'm home and it's not the season, we're doing stuff, I'm as much as I can just really engulfed in what he's doing. Right. And I think that's a very big key part of that. Well, really good question. Really appreciate that. All right. Here is a question from, I want to get this. I saw this one and I want to get to it. It's corner. Oh, how about this? RJR, best golf courses near St. John Fisher. What do you think, Matt? You played a lot of them. Obviously Oak Hill, but a lot of people can't play Oak Hill. We can't really play Oak Hill very much.
Yeah, Oak Hill is the best golf course around St. John Fisher. The second best there's Pittsford it's an embarrassment of riches as far as golfing is concerned, because in a very close radius, you have Oak Hill, you have Monroe Country Club, you have Arundecoy Country Club, and you have the Country Club of Rochester, all right there. Then not far away, you have Locust Hill. Those are 5 exceptionally nice golf courses.
Oh, yeah.
I would say, as far as public courses are concerned, isn't it Ravenwood?
Ravenwood is really good. Yep.
Ravenwood's a really cool public golf course in Rochester. There's one other one that I'm blanking on, but Rochester has great golf. Rochester golf is better than Buffalo golf for sure.
Yeah, it's really fun to be out there and have a chance. And a lot of times it's like you wish you had more time to go and play them all, but when we get a chance, and thank you very much. I know I've been invited a lot out, and I know you have as well. And hey, if you're out there and you want to invite us, shoot us a text, or I will shamelessly plug that. But look, it's a chance for us to get out and say hi to some listeners as well. And people want to go and hang out and play around and have a couple drinks. We're all for it. All right. Chris says, with players pretty much locked into CB1 and CB3 and CB4, what do you think about, this is Bruce Exclusive, who does a podcast, shout out to Bruce, his idea of drafting 3 to 4 corners and seeing if one can win at cornerback too. All right, Bruce, I'm going to tell you, buddy, as much as I love you, I don't love this idea. I can't see the Bills drafting that many corners because you're eventually going to have to cut those guys at the end of camp and you're going to lose them possibly to waivers. But I understand the thought, but I can't see the Bills drafting that many, Matt.
Right now, my guess is their first pick is a cornerback.
Yeah.
I'm pretty not confident because they could do anything, but my guess is that the first round pick is a cornerback and then they draft another cornerback probably on day 3. I don't think they would do 3, but I definitely think there's a world where they do 2. A lot of it will depend on if they do anything else with a veteran cornerback, right? Like, let's say Rasul Douglas is still sitting out there and they're like, hey, he's not getting the interest from other teams that he thought he was going to get. I think the Bills should bring him back and there should just be a straight up competition between whoever they take and Rasul Douglas to be their second best cornerback, and then their primary backups will be the person who lost that competition, and then Dane Jackson. And I think you feel really good about a position that right now you don't feel very good about. So that's how I would do it. If there's not veteran other options available, then I think you draft a guy early and you just hope that they can beat out Dane Jackson. And if they can't, then you just kind of got to roll with the situation you're in, at least until the season, and then maybe you try and make a move then, like they did for Russell Douglas last season.
I think that answers Jim's question. You just did it, because Jim asked, with the ability of Babich and McDermott to develop DBs, would you think they could then wait until day 3 to select a corner? I don't. I think they're drafting a corner very early, and I agree with you. It's very likely at this point, round number 1, at very least round number 2.
Let me ask you this. This isn't a question from anybody in particular, but I think it's a good question. If there's a position that they take that would be a surprise, what would the position be? Because I think right now they've got a first-round pick and 2 second-round picks. So let's just kind of lump in their top 3 picks as their premium picks. It is very, very likely that they draft a cornerback and a defensive lineman, or multiple defensive linemen. We've had the wide receiver conversation on the podcast before. Is there any position that they could take that would be a surprise to us that we could kind of justify and make sense of?
Safety.
Really?
Well, all I'm saying is, let me answer it the way I want to answer. I do not think they're taking safety. That's why I'd be surprised. But the reason I bring it up is because a lot of people believe they could still do it based on what the safety room looks like.
True.
I do not think they're going to do that. I would be surprised if they drafted a safety.
Yeah, but now that you make the point, it's interesting, because if you really like somebody, then you could conceivably move forward with that person in Cole Bishop. And you would also have a bit of an insurance policy in case Cole Bishop doesn't work out. It's hard for me to think, though, that they would spend a first or second round pick on a safety. I really do think that it's going to end up being a cornerback with their first pick, a defensive tackle with their second pick, and then a defensive end with their third pick. That's really what I think ends up happening. Maybe a wide receiver, but probably not.
What percentage could they draft a running back if they really do feel that there's something going south with James Cook, and considering how really good this running back class is?
They could. I just don't think they would do it there. I would think they would do it with one of their several 4th-round picks.
Agreed.
But then I don't even know how you get that person on the team unless you're moving on from James Cook, which this team isn't doing. You're not moving on from Ty Johnson. You're not moving on from Ray Davis. You're not carrying 4 running backs.
No.
I mean, you're just not, right? With Reggie Gilliam coming back, that is your 4th running back. So
Matt, I think the only offensive position that's even in play before day number 3 is wide receiver. Not offensive line, not tight end, not running back, certainly not quarterback. I can't see it. Offensive line, they have literally every starter and every main backup under contract.
Well, don't you think that they could draft a center?
No.
Really?
No, they just drafted Cedric Van Pran Granger last year.
Yeah, true. It's just,
and they have and I mean, 1 more year under contract. Sorry to cut you off. Connor McGovern has 1 more year under contract, and you have Van Pran Granger. And by the way, Alec Anderson can play center.
That's a good point. I didn't even think of Cedric Van Pran Granger, even though we just ranked him on this list. I was basically thinking of Connor McGovern and Alec Anderson. Excuse me. So
I did think guard, but I thought, wait a minute, Alec Anderson can play guard. If there's a spot, it could be guard. David Edwards has 1 year left, but I still think there's no offensive lineman they're drafting in the first 2 rounds.
More reason that I think a wide receiver could be in play, just because I don't know if you're definitely drafting defense or on defense for 1, 2, 2. Like, it feels like maybe you got to do something. Is the only addition to the offense this year going to be Josh Palmer?
At this point, him, Darrington Evans, Laviska Shenault, which is really a special teams addition. So I mean, you're going to make more additions, but I think this is it. I agree with you. All right. Ginger's Gridiron and Golf Podcast. We love Ginger. Ginger's Gridiron and Golf Podcast. They're up north, and they have always said, Matt, we want to go up to Canada and play some golf. Speaking of that, we have an open invite to go up and play golf with them. All right.
Hell yeah.
And I met I think maybe both or at least one half of the podcast at a game. Good question here. They're loyal listeners. Who's the most important Bill for the 2025 season? Not named Josh Allen. Pick 1 on offense and 1 on defense. There's some really good answers here. Really good, thoughts here. Most important Bill. Boy, 1 on offense, 1 on defense. I am torn between Dalton Kincaid and Keon Coleman on offense.
My initial thought was Keon Coleman, but then I peeled off my initial thought because they did a lot last year without much contributions from Keon Coleman anyway.
Mm-hmm.
So how important could he be? I was going to say somebody on the offensive line or Dalton Kincaid when you first posed the question.
Is it James Cook maybe?
No, because the game that James Cook didn't play last year, Ray Davis was awesome, and you still have Ty Johnson, and I think you would be fine. I don't think you would be as dynamic for sure. I think James Cook's a good player. I don't know what this team looks like without Deion Dawkins playing at the level he played at, or same thing with Spencer Brown. So even though they did a good job without Spencer Brown last year, I'll say Deion Dawkins.
I like that pick. That could be it. And the one, like the people you couldn't live without, that's probably someone high up on the list. All right. And then on the defensive side,
I have an easy one for me.
It's a Taryn?
It's Christian Benford.
Yeah.
It's Christian Benford.
Considering where the roster is right now, that's probably the right answer.
That's what I mean. You lose Christian Benford.
Yeah.
You're going Dane Jackson and who as your corners right now.
Right.
Like that would be
Jamarcus Ingram.
That would be a very big problem for the Bills if they ever found themselves in that position, which is why going back to the question from, the Bruce exclusive suggestion, it's not an issue until it is. And then you need to have some solidified backups there.
I don't know if you picked out any. I can give you another one or two if you'd like.
Yeah, I haven't.
Okay, good. All right. Let's go with this. This is from speaking of Benford. Adam, any insight intel into the Christian Benford contract situation? He said, I'm a little concerned about where it is right now, that nothing's happened.
I don't think I'm concerned. I wonder too how much of this is certainly Christian Benford wants to get paid as much as humanly possible, as any player would in his position. I'm not overly concerned as far as the injuries are concerned, but I wonder how the Bills evaluate that off the back-to-back concussions and back-to-back weeks. So I wonder if that's a factor here at all. The one thing I'll say is I don't know how much risk there is with Christian Benford if he plays another season from the Bills' standpoint. I feel like it's riskier for Christian Benford to go into the year without a deal than it is for the Bills. Because even if Christian Benford does the exact same year he just did, I feel like we're talking about a very similar number, even though the cornerback market will continue to go up. He is not a flash and substance cornerback. He is just a steady, reliable, defensively sound corner. He's not going to get the 6 interceptions that all of a sudden gets him paid a ton of money. I don't think he is a household name yet. So even though we know how good he is, I don't know if everybody knows around the league how good he is. And I think that works to the Bills' favor.
I like this question from, it looks like Sicko or Skicko. I appreciate your question because there is one guy. If I could choose one free agent out there that I think the Bills could go out and maybe help them still, it's Calais Campbell. He says, is Calais Campbell a great fit for the Bills?
Yeah, I
think so.
I posted on X before they signed Ogunjobi, go sign Calais Campbell, because he was great for the Dolphins last year, and he certainly checks every box of the type of player you would want to bring into your locker room. You're attacking the window that you're in. I know he's 39 years old. I don't care. He can still play. He can bridge the gap while you have the Ogunjobi suspension, while you have the Hoyt suggestion. He would be the perfect mentor for somebody that you could draft defensively. It would also open things up, I think, a little bit in the first and second round. I'm not saying that Calais Campbell would stop you from drafting a defensive tackle or a defensive end or anything like that, but maybe it doesn't force you to have to take another one later in the draft that you could then take a flyer on a different player. I really like it. I'm sure he wants to go to a contender, and I think the Bills check that box. So I wouldn't be shocked if that happens. I don't think it's going to, but I wouldn't be shocked if it did.
I think it'd be a terrific fit considering what happened with Ogunjobi. You need another veteran on that D-line, I think, to be a part of that rotation. They love getting those guys. They still have Austin Johnson, Quentin Jefferson, Jordan Phillips, all still out there. I think Calais Campbell would be a really good pick for the Bills, a really good player for the Bills. But, boy, I don't know what his situation is, what he wants. If he wants to go back to Miami, back to Baltimore, if he wants to play anymore, we'll see. Finally, let's end it with 3 questions from Bobby. Thank you, Bobby, with an I. Do you think the Bills will be sorry they gave up on Mac Hollins? I'm going to say, first of all, I think that's phrased wrong. I don't think the Bills gave up on Mac Hollins at all. I think the Bills wanted Mac Hollins back, but they weren't about to give him the kind of money that the New England Patriots got him plus 2 years instead of 1.
Yeah, I think Mac Hollins is a very solid and reliable player who is paid to be, like a legitimate contributor for a team that has all the cap space in the world and has no real talent in the wide receiver room. So it makes sense. It checks out, right? Mac Hollins was loved by the fan base. It's his 5th team in 5 years. So it probably should not be a surprise that he's on a different team right now. So I don't think that they'll regret it because I think Josh Palmer is going to give him more than Matt Collins did.
I want to make it clear to everybody what I think, the way I read the situation. I think this was Matt Collins' choice. It wasn't the Bills. What I mean by that is Mac, he earned the right, as they say, to go out and be a free agent. He got $5 million a year for a couple of different years. I don't think the Bills wanted to go that high. He got an extra year, which I think the Bills probably would have rather had a 1-year deal. But more than anything, Matt, he had a great season, his best season, I should say, over 600 yards with Josh McDaniels. And that's where McDaniels is now in New England. I can't blame him for saying, I want to run it back to have that kind of a year again and be a part of the offense like that.
My biggest thing
They have nobody else.
Yeah, my biggest thing, too, is that I said this on a podcast not that long ago. He's won a Super Bowl. Yeah. You don't have to chase something you already have. He's won a Super Bowl. So for him, what's more important right now? A second Super Bowl or setting yourself up with generational wealth? I feel like that's the more important thing when you've won a Super Bowl. If he hadn't, then I would understand why he would want to stick around. But he's already won one. So I don't think we feel any different about the Bills' outlook for this year with or without Matt Collins on the roster right now.
Speaking of Matt Collins and the Patriots, he might be like wide receiver 2 for them right now. Would you be they might draft Travis Hunter. How would that make you feel? I would not like it. I think Travis Hunter is terrific. I think he's going to be a great corner. And if you use him right, he's going to help on offense too.
I am really interested in how the Patriots would approach that because if you're drafting him with the 4th overall pick, he's probably a receiver and not a corner because you already got Christian Gonzalez. You got Alex Austin, who we were just talking about. Like they've really leaned into adding and bolstering their defense this year. Offense, they need some weapons. Would you use a 4th round pick or the 4th overall pick on another defensive stud who's only going to play a couple snaps a game offensively? I don't know the answer. I don't think you want to see him in the AFC East because I think he's going to be a really good player.
Me too. I think so. So I think he's the most talented player in this draft, no doubt. Bobby also asked, will DeMar be a starter? I think we both say no at this point, right?
I agree.
Bishop
I do not believe so.
And then finally, me too. Finally, his question is, any thoughts on the home opener and the team that could come to Buffalo for the home opener this year? I don't know that. I mean, we could give it, but I'm going to ask you and wrap it up on the heels of Bobby. Something Mike Shope asked me on WGR Sports Radio 550 the other day. He asked me a great schedule question. I want to throw it out to you, and we're going to have more schedule questions. So he said, Mike Shope asked me, I'll ask you, Matt. Philadelphia Eagles, Cincinnati Bengals, Baltimore Ravens, Kansas City Chiefs. All 4 are coming to Buffalo this year. We know that. What are the chances that how many of them, I should say, are going to be actual 1:00 games, Sunday at 1:00? Mike said, could all 4 not be 1:00 games? I said, boy, that's a lot. I would think 3 of them are not. 1 of them is, but I could see all 4 not being 1:00 games.
I don't think any of them will be. I think they'll either be primetime games or 4:25 games.
I can't wait to have our schedule pod.
Yeah, I mean, right? Think about it. What of the games is it's not going to be the Chiefs? It's not. It's not going to be the Ravens. It's not. I just really don't see that happening. So then it's
Eagles.
The team that won the Super, NFC team, put them at 4:30 in that window, 4:25 in that window.
Bengals.
The Bengals to me just scream Monday Night Football. Just something about the Bengals and the Bills is just Monday Night Football. I don't know if it's because of the stuff that happened with DeMar on Monday Night Football, or it's because then they played him again in a primetime game 2 years ago.
It's Burrow and Allen.
That's what I mean. It's just like Burrow and Allen, Lamar and Allen, Jalen and Allen, Patrick Mahomes and Allen.
Yeah.
Like, none of those are 1:00 games.
I'm so sorry. We're going long here, folks, but everything's coming to my mind. For a pod where there wasn't a lot going on, we had a lot to talk about. Okay. If Aaron Rodgers signs with the Steelers.
Yes.
Does that increase or decrease?
No, it decreased. It's significantly decreased. The Bills are going to, if Aaron Rodgers signs with the Steelers, I already know what you're going to ask.
Yes.
I think they're going to Ireland.
The Bills.
Yes.
Because there's no way the NFL is putting Aaron Rodgers against the Packers at 9 a.m. in Ireland.
No chance. That's Sunday Night Football week 4 if that happens. So that's why I would think, okay. So I'm very interested in it, to be honest, because I don't think that he changes a ton for the outlook of the AFC or the Steelers, but I do think that it changes potentially something pretty big for the Bills.
Great pod today. Had fun. Hope you did too.
Yeah.
Check it out. Matt's rankings, rounds 1 through 7 for the Buffalo Bills, each draft pick under Brandon Beane. Thanks a lot to our producer, Mike Rabier. And of course, subscribe to the podcast. make sure you're going to the video side at Sal Sports. We're close to 12,000 subscribers. Thank you all so much for getting us there, and let's keep it going. And of course, wherever you pod, iTunes, Spotify, or whatever else, Matt.
I want to say one thing. I met a couple people at an event I was at on Friday night, and I wanted to shout out the organization because it was so cool, and I was unfamiliar with it. Do you know what Gigi's Playhouse is?
I don't think so.
Okay, so Friday was World Down Syndrome Day. It's a day made for awareness for Down syndrome and how far that they've come as a community, the Down syndrome community, but how far they still need to go in recognizing awareness. Gigi's Playhouse is a facility in our own backyard that offers classes for anybody who has Down syndrome. It's a place where people with Down syndrome can go and hang out with each other, learn life skills, and just go be with each other. And like, it's a really, really amazing place. There was a couple people who listened to the podcast at the event I was at, and they're like, hey, go Bills. They're asking us questions. It was such a cool space and event, and everything that they offer is free. So everything that they do is completely funded by the generosity of our community. So shout out to them. Sabres captain Rasmus Dahlin is very involved. I think that's really cool. So Gigi's Playhouse, really cool organization, really cool cause. If you don't know about it, give it a quick Google search. Consider, giving them some love.
Great stuff. We'll talk to you next time, everybody.